um, I would just like to tell people, don't let these downtimes or these setbacks define who you are. It's never that. And especially when somebody's starting early, people who start working in their early 20s, they think their work defines them. And the work that they do, the way they are seen in their workplace defines who they are. Never, never. Even if you're the CEO of a company, what you build, what you give to the audience is not who you are. You are more than a job.
You know what they say? Desperate times call for
swapping hotel front desk for marketing brainstorms and moving from India to Canada.
If you've ever had to start over, career, country, or both, this one's for you.
This is Desperate Times.
Our guest today embodies the spirit of reinvention, literally moving from the luxurious, high pressure world of five-star hotel front desks in India to the strategic, fast paced culture of a corporate marketing team in Toronto. He's someone who we've looked up to twice. First, in the halls of IHM Mumbai, where he was our senior, and again when he mentored you, Sakshi, while navigating the demanding programs at George Brown College in Toronto. Shouvik's journey is a masterclass in proving that your first career doesn't have to be your last. It's a real desperate time story of letting go of a built up professional identity, navigating the infamous Canadian experience, and ultimately rebuilding a successful life across continents. Today, Shouvik shares the raw, tactical, and emotional truth of what it really takes to not just pivot, but to truly start over. So, with that said, let's bring on Shouvik.
Shouvik, welcome to Desperate Times. We know you from high pressure, incredibly demanding days, IHM, hotel industry, and then let's start with the image people have of five-star hotel manager. You're in a sharp suit, solving crisis, running high stakes operation. Fast forward to your first day in Canada with marketing and like, what's the single most difference you felt? Not in job, but like culture, vibe, workplace.
I think the one single difference, the big difference between hoteliering that life and any other corporate life is that no matter how prepared you are in hotels, the issues and the incidents can always surprise you. Anything can happen, and when I say
Yeah.
anything,
Yeah.
anything, I have handled situations, unfortunately, that where I was like, nobody teaches you to how to handle. I have handled, unfortunately, situations of accidents, heart attack, a criminal
My
hiding
God.
with a fake name and CBI coming in and all those things. So it's all very movie like. So nobody
Oh
Yeah.
my
teaches you.
God.
So when you join hotels, when you go through SOPs, there is no solution to these things, right? So it's always
Yeah.
very unpredictable. And the nicer thing is that in with this life, there is an end to work, right? In hotels, there is no end to work.
Yeah.
Even if you go back home mentally, you're always kind of plugged in. And especially if you are in
Yep.
sales and marketing in hotels, which I was for good 5 years, it never ends. You're constantly on emails because if you ignore one email, the business is lost. It goes to another hotel and then you're
Oh
answerable.
my
And
God.
it's even one room night. I'm not even talking about a huge business. It's hard. You're constantly plugged in. You're always worried about missing an email or a call. There are so many Sundays that I've gone to the hotel to ensure that the checkout happens, because I know even if the front office goofs up, it's on me because the billing doesn't happen, and then
Yeah.
it's on me to collect that
Yeah.
balance payment. So it's a very high stress environment. This life is much more better. I know how to now, especially the Canadian corporate life is much better because people don't bother you. There are so many people I know who don't even have my direct mobile numbers because they don't
Yeah.
want it. All
Yeah.
communication happens on Teams or emails. So that's the one single difference, and I think I really wanted and I really cherish this life now, because for the longest time I was in hotels and I missed out on so many occasions, festivals, birthdays, anniversaries. So it pinches you, but yeah, now I
Mhm.
really respect and value this life that I have.
Completely fair. I think everything that you said, and you unpacked a lot in there already. So to take it bit by bit, I think the first part that you mentioned about working in hotels and the experience that you've had, it sounds a lot like what you literally see in shows like The White Lotus. I don't know if you watched that show. I
I
keep
have heard it. I've
referencing
not
it.
seen it, but yeah.
You must watch it because what you described is literally that. And Varun and I have not had those experiences because we
Yeah.
were literally in the hotels for at least Varun was there for his industrial training days, and
Hmm.
I was in there for my management training days as well. But that was it. So what you're describing, we didn't go through any of it. We're like, wait, this happens?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's also depends on the kind of hotel that you're working with. If you're working in a smaller mid-scale hotel,
Hmm.
the level of problems are not that big, but in a bigger property, anything can happen, and it's hard because you don't know how to handle the situations. You just have to wing it.
Yeah, because in college
True.
we don't have lectures for all of these things.
Yeah, nobody teaches you.
Yeah, but as you said, I think just having that extremity where there is no work-life balance is just completely non-existential. To where, as you mentioned rightly now, and it's stuff that even Sakshi and I are experiencing, where work-life balance is just what you said, where people don't care to have you or your colleagues. It's a very different life from your work life and your life, and those boundaries are maintained a lot more as long as you're also going an extra mile to maintain it. So do you think that is one big part of the reason why you made the pivot? Because you were just like, it's too much. I need my life back.
Probably initially it was. So I would say it does get better as you become more senior and as you find your niche.
Hmm.
Initially, for the first 4 years, whichever department you may be it front office, sales. I am not even talking about food and beverage because it never gets better. In
Yeah.
F&B, it never gets better. So eventually, after 4 5 years, once you become a number two in the department, and be it your assistant front office manager or assistant
Hmm.
sales manager, things become better. You know how to manage things. You know how to delegate things. You know how to coordinate with other departments. So there is a little bit of balance. And as compared to operations, sales has a better balance. At least you get your Sundays off, right? Hotel
Hmm.
still doesn't have that Saturday, Sunday off. It's still a very alien
Yeah.
concept in hotels. The bigger reason why I made this move was when happened, it was a very challenging time. Although I'm very grateful to the company that I was in ITC Hotels. So I have nothing against the company. It's an amazing company with a very great culture. They really take care of the people. ITC Hotels was the only hotel during which did not lay off anybody.
Wow.
Just laid off people, Hyatt and all these international chains, Oberoi laid off people. ITC paid everyone. Although me being in sales, I was sitting at home, but there was this bubble which was created in the hotel where some
Hmm.
chefs and F&B people were staying to kind of handle any emergency or whatever, and we were also supplying food to people. So the hotel was kind of open, but not to guests. So during that time, I realized I was not, and this might be a very basic thing to say, but I realized that I was not very excited every morning. There was no
Hmm.
excitement in waking up. I used to go, I
Oh.
used to be very irritated. I used to do my work and everything, finish off by 7:38 in the evening, reach home by 9 p.m. It was just very monotonous. And the way things were, I didn't think that it'll change because I also saw my seniors. Like the work pressure decreases, but then you have other things to, worry about.
Yeah.
At a senior level, you're worrying about audits, the fiscal
Mm.
matters, other internal matters. So it never really gets better. I didn't want to stay in that life for very long, and I thought the longer I stay, it'll be harder to break out of it and go somewhere else. And obviously, there is this huge stigma in India that once you've worked in this industry for 8 9 years,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
other industries don't even look at you, even though you might have the best of qualifications. And by this time, I had an MBA, I had a good amount of work experience. I was working in hotels for almost 7 years by then. But yeah, I was applying to other places, other companies, and with references, but it was not working out because I think the stigma is just too much. So
Hmm.
the bigger reason why I left was to find out a different life, to kind of try out new things. And I know because even if this doesn't work out, and even if I choose to go back someday, I can, and I don't have any pressure. So a lot of people come to escape their life that they had and to find something better. I
Yeah.
didn't necessarily do that. I just wanted a different life and to kind of be somewhere else, do something different. So that was the bigger reason.
So, how did you decide that marketing was the right one? Like, yes, you didn't enjoy hospitality all that much,
Hmm.
and then you wanted to possibly pivot and move, but why marketing? Like, was that a mentor, a specific book, or just realization that, this is what I want to do?
So I was always somehow kind of in marketing when so I'm sure each of these hotel chains have their own management training school. Oberoi is OCLD. So ITC that time used to have WMI, which later got converted to ITC HMI. So
Hmm.
after HMI, when we were about to graduate after that 1 year management training program, back then I'm talking about 2000, early 2011. back then marketing wasn't taken that seriously in all these big hotels. There was no central marketing department in the headquarters. Most hotels
Mm,
would have a PR manager who would also look into
yeah.
marketing, or social media was also very early that time. So that was a time when ITC was coming up with some major projects, and they wanted a separate young marketing, a digital marketing team who can, implement their own ideas, and with a little bit of training and teaching, they can go and handle. So they asked people, and they conducted interviews, and few of us applied because, in my mind, back then, me and my colleague who applied and got selected, there were two of us. We wanted to escape front office because you know how front office is, right? So we were fresh out of training, and we were just fed up with front office and those 12, 13-hour shifts. We were like, "Arey, this is, there's a lot of fun marketing. Chill, you sit in an office." We applied, and we got through. Then for the next 6 months, we were in the head office in Gurgaon, and with the central marketing and brands team, we learned everything. That phase was also very, very rigorous and gave us a whole different exposure to how management in hotels work and how what goes behind
Mhm,
a pre-opening hotel. And our whole focus during this time was opening up ITC Grand Chola in Chennai, which was our biggest project at that time. It was a 600 room hotel, 50,000 square feet of banquet, mega project. So all our marketing efforts were centered around that hotel. So it was fun. So we kind of worked for that hotel for a bit. Eventually, we were sent to Chennai. I worked in marketing for Grand Chola along with the Central Brands team for another 1 year. Eventually, and all this was a very temporary assignment. So on papers, I was still assistant manager front office. So a lot of admin related issues happened, and we kept asking for the proper move on papers because a lot of things change with your designation. But the company was very indecisive, and in our own interest, we chose to go back to front office because we didn't want to be, somewhere in the middle without a proper designation, without a proper reporting structure. It was scary at that time, and we were very young, so we wanted things very prim and proper. So we chose to go back to front office. Then I worked in front office for another 3.5, 4 years. Then I took a break, did my MBA in marketing and international business from Symbiosis, which was again a major transformation phase. That's when I really learned what marketing is, how things work, and that
mhm,
opened up whole world to me. And then I went back to ITC again. I chose to go back because the placements which happen from MBA, sometimes you have to start from scratch. I briefly worked with Axis Bank. I did take up the placement. I worked with
mhm,
Axis Bank for 3 months, but I didn't like the culture, And obviously, there was this hangover that I've come from hotels. I demand a
Mhm.
certain amount of respect, and this that. Suddenly, in banks, nobody gives a shit that who you are, and for the first 1 week, I didn't even have a desk, and I'm like, do I just stand around? So
mhm.
I thought it's better to go back to ITC because I can stand. ITC has an amazing culture that when you leave hotels, and if you choose to come back, you come back at a high grade. So in a way, you come back at a
Okay.
promotion and a better package. So I mean, that was a good thing. So I went back to ITC, and this time I chose sales and marketing department. So yeah, long story short, I worked in marketing, and then over the years, I developed a bit of understanding, a creative side, and I always had a creative side to me. I was
Mhm.
always good at connecting with people, doing things, getting things done, no matter what challenges are. So that kind of led me to narrow down on this field. When I decided to actually move out this for the national project.
Wow. It seems like you have clearly had a lot of experience, and we already kind of well established that at the beginning of this episode that you have a lot of hotel experience. But I also want to talk a little more about what you rightly spoke about, the stigma of pivoting, right? Like when you get a lot of experience in something, there's a lot of notions from people around you, your immediate circle. There's a lot of notions from your employer that you might want to look at, like having an interview with. And that's something even I've kind of like tried speaking to other guests about and seeing what their experiences were like in terms of navigating around that stigma. So, what would you say that was like for you? Did you feel like you faced a lot of it?
Yeah, a lot of it, and it starts from home. The first stigma was from your parents, and I'm very attached to my parents, so I didn't want to take a decision in isolation.
Hmm.
And this has always been the case. Whatever I do in life, I'm still a kid when it comes to that. I discuss with my parents, I sit down, and I can't proceed until I have the consent. So it was a difficult discussion because for parents, it was that I was, and I had a perfect life and I was doing
Yeah.
really well. And from the society's perspective, I was doing well,
Hmm.
be it in terms of pay, salary, benefits, the life, but nobody knew what I was feeling internally, right? Because that's very hard to
100%.
to present to somebody and tell them that, listen, this is what I feel now. Do you get what I'm saying? So it was a hard discussion. Now my mom that
Yeah.
was also stayed in that phase. So I told them that, it's not like I'm making this as a sudden decision. I have been thinking about it for a while. Eventually they understood and they said, listen, you know what, whatever makes you happy, and it's fine. So then the second stage of stigma came from the company. And everybody was like, dude, at this point, you've been here for 8.5 years. Your next promotion, or your by next year, you will be a head of department in some hotel, and you're due for a promotion again. By now, um, it was a good it was a hard discussion with people who were my mentors, who I really liked. And it went on for a while, couple of weeks, and they told me. So one of the vice presidents told me that, you know what, I know you've had maybe it's a burnout. Why don't you take a vacation for 1 month, say 2 months, go relax and come back. uh, no, sir, yeah, I really have decided. He said, okay, take 3 months, go.
Mm. But just come back.
Hard negotiation there.
I think I have grown out of this place, and I don't think I enjoy it anymore. And it's unfair for me to. Eventually, the resignation got accepted, and I was very happy. The notice period started, and yeah, so it was hard initially to convince people, but internally it wasn't really hard, because by this time I was very sure of what I was going to do. And back of the mind is, I was always sure that, even if things don't work out, even if I go to Canada, and by this time, when I submitted my resignation, I had not decided which college, nothing, where I'm going to study. So all this came much later. So I decided to resign in June or early July of 2022, and I applied to GBC in probably end of October. So at that point of time, going out was just an idea. I essentially just wanted to get out of there and have a break, because I was really due for this break, because I had been working nonstop for 8.5 years, and I was really frustrated. I wanted something new, something fresh. So yeah, that was the story.
Wow, that's quite a bit of a journey. And
Yeah.
but when you first arrived as a student, what was your biggest pinch me moment where you realized, okay, yeah, I'm really starting from zero? Because yes, you did IHM, you did your MBA, but then I feel like starting as a student again in a different country puts
Yeah.
things into a different perspective. So, like, how did you feel it, and how did you go about it?
To be honest, I think for all of us who have been in the first few weeks, it's very hard. I remember the first day I landed, I came in the evening. By the time I reached my Airbnb, it was almost dark, and it was the month of April, sunset, and suddenly that silence and loneliness hits you, because you have nothing. You just have 2, 3 suitcases, and you're in a random new place. And in that moment of silence, it hit me that, is this the right thing? What will happen tomorrow? And in that moment, I didn't know what to do, where to go eat, what will happen tomorrow. So that those
Yeah.
1 or 2 days were real hard. So I made it a point to connect with a lot of people before I came here from GBC, and most of them are very good friends still. I ended up working with some of them in GBC. It was a little hard, obviously, because you're used to a certain amount of comfort, a certain amount of aura that, I am so and so. When you suddenly come in a new place where nobody recognizes you, where you're
Yeah.
struggling for something as small as how to get a Presto card or how to set up a bank, it does humble
Yeah.
you. It takes you back to when you were 21, when you were learning all these big person things, adult
Yeah.
things. And so suddenly you're that small kid again, trying to adult, trying to, adjust to a new place. But I made sure that I stay positive. I met a lot of people. And I had already done one semester by then. So first semester was online. I came here during beginning of second semester. So I already had some really good friends, and I'm very, very grateful for these people. They've been there for me from day zero, day one. So yeah, it was hard, but at the same time, it was very comfortable because of these people. But also, I think the deeper reason why it didn't impact me so much, because I come from an army background. And from a very early age, we become very, very adaptable, and nothing really surprises or phases us. So we've been posted to place. I've been to Ladakh and very inhospitable places. So, but it's always the mindset, and I think that kind of gives you a lot of strength to stay positive and accept whatever comes your way. So I think that mindset and that belief system also kind of helped me settle down. It wasn't easy. I mean, for the first few months, I ended up getting on wrong buses every time on a different direction,
Yes,
or
all the
do something which was not normal for this place. So, but that's all I think part of the journey, and I think everybody has to go through it. You can't magically skip that and suddenly be comfortable.
yeah, it's the rite of passage.
Yeah.
100%. I think I want to dive a little more, Shouvik, into student life, and I'll give you some context to things that I've been a student myself, but like I've also been a part of the social media team at my university. And like just as like these interviews that we would do with students, like one common question around graduation would come up being like, hey, what's one piece of advice you would give to like any incoming student?
Yeah.
And one common answer that I always got from I think almost everybody is them coming on camera and saying, get involved. Get involved.
Yeah. This
And
is the exact same thing, but in a different way. You are absolutely right.
so I think seeing from your experience, I feel like you are someone who has actually been very involved and might have some insights to give as to how to really get involved because no one speaks about the how.
I think in a place like this, you are as strong as your network, or it can be any network, but it's very important to have people around you. And like you said, it's very important to be visible, to be out there. When I was part of the orientation team in GBC, we used to do so many workshops every week. We used to host the orientation session every semester. The biggest advice, so we had a whole list of things in our presentation, but the one thing that we used to always stress upon, that put yourself out there,
Mm-hmm.
because only when if you keep sitting in one place, if you don't socialize, if you don't go out, your problems don't get magically solved. Even if you go out there, I am not assuring you, it's not a guarantee that it will get solved, but at least you might have somebody else who has a similar problem and might give you a different perspective. If not, you will have 10 other people who have the same problem, and at least if nothing else, it'll make you feel better. So the more involved you are, the more outgoing you are, the more you learn, the more perspectives you get, and the learning happens faster. So I think that's something a lot of people struggle with. There's a lot of stigma when they come in. They don't know who to meet with. They don't know where to socialize, which is why I think colleges and universities need to have these orientation teams or some kind of groups or clubs, some neutral places where people and students can go and observe and be a part of it and kind of just make friends. That's very important. For me, I was always very, I mean, socializing was not difficult for me. Obviously, I was from hotels, and even before that, I have always been that person. So I was overtly, outgoing and open. So I knew almost everyone in the college. And also because of my orientation job, I was on the website, I was on the social media every time, and it was very funny. So many students would come to me and say, "Hey, I've seen your Instagram story." I'm like, "Okay, nice, fun."
Everyone
I
knows
would chat to
Shouvik
them.
at GBC. Everyone knows him. Staff,
Everyone
students,
and
everyone.
everyone at one point, and it was very funny also, and but again, it was always a nice thing, and I know what the struggle is. So whenever somebody would come up to me that say, "Hey, I know you," and something, I, no matter how busy I was, no matter what class I was in, I would always make it a point to stay for 2 minutes and chat with them, because I know what those 2 minutes mean to a completely new person who's stressed and who doesn't know what to do. Sometimes those 2 minutes mean a lot to a new fresh person. So that happened. It's a funny story. After I graduated, and probably 6 months, I eventually worked there for a year and a half. After 6 months or 7 months of working there, one day I went to this office, and there was this another student working there, and I chatted about her about something, and then she said, "You've been here for many years, no?" I'm like, "No, it's not many years. It's this is the third year. So don't make me feel as if I'm something." So yeah, but it's fun. I would credit GBC a big time for all my connections and whatever I have achieved. People have been very, very kind to me in GBC. All the opportunities that I've got, even the current job that I have, is through GBC. So I have great love and respect for that place.
I mean, the kind of environment too. Shouvik and I actually didn't just meet first time in college. I attended this orientation that Shouvik was a part of, the
Uh-huh.
orientation team. It was an online orientation. I was in India, Shouvik was in Canada, and we were chatting, and I said, "Oh, well, I'm from a hospitality background." And Shouvik was like, "Wait, hospitality? Where did you go?" And then we discovered that time
Yeah,
that it
yeah.
was
And I
actually
still remember
IHM.
yeah, I remember the first day I met you at the waterfront
Yeah,
orientation, you and your other
yeah,
friends, and I ended up
yeah,
chatting with them for good 10, 15
yeah.
minutes. It was this whole circle, and I was in the middle of this. chatting
Yeah,
with
Shouvik was
everybody.
in the center, and I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, this guy Shouvik. I spoke to him on the orientation thing, and then Shouvik being nice to everyone, like so
but I've
chatting and
always loved
everything.
doing it.
So,
I've always loved
yeah,
doing it. Even now, when somebody random messages me on LinkedIn, and it happens every now and then when they are confused about which program to take, the pros and cons. And the problem is that I can't give a half-ass reply.
Yeah.
I can't. I have. If I say something, I have to do a justice. So when
yes.
this
Yeah.
person sent me a message about multiple things, one option was to write a long message, which I was very tired to do. I sent him a long 6.5 minute voice note explaining everything because that's just me, and I need to do it. And then eventually he said, "Thank you. Okay, that makes sense." So I do it. It gives me happiness, and I know how it matters to people. It's very necessary, and giving back to people in whichever capacity you can is very, very important. That should everybody should do that in whichever capacity that they can.
Sure. And not just for orientation. I think when I was going into like the first semester, I think we were already chosen professors, but Shouvik was doing that program like he was a semester or 2 semesters ahead. And I think I ate his head for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes. I don't know how long that was. I was on a
And
call
you know
like, Shouvik, the dates are going live. I need to know which professors to pick.
exactly, yeah, that, and you're not the only one. There's so many of your other friends who have done that. I have done the same thing with Jessica. I've done
Yes.
the same thing with Piyush and so many
Yeah.
others. It's the same thing, but yeah, I mean, it's
Jessica
nice.
is an active listener to the podcast. She's definitely going to go in the comments being like, hey, I was mentioned.
But oh,
Jessica,
Jessica.
Jessica is an amazing person. I've had the privilege of then eventually working with Jessica in the Center for Business team, and now she's doing so well. So Jessica is one of the very good dynamic persons that I've met during my stint in GVC.
We have also called her to this podcast, by the way.
Yeah,
Shouvik. Maybe she needs a push from
Y-
you.
yeah. I will tell her. I will.
Not us putting Jessica in the spot when she's not even on this episode.
I'm sure she have a very good perspective because again, she has had a very interesting, time in college as well, a student, then being a
Exactly.
co-op student in Center for Business. It's a very interesting journey for her
And
as well.
she comes from a consulting background in India, by the way. So that's another
Yeah,
thing, right? But about Jessica, if you're interested in the episode, we'll do that later.
Jessica, please come if you're watching.
Then, on that note, I think I want to ask you what, now that you're into marketing and you have kind of moved away from hospitality, what are the skill sets that you think you've taken from your hospitality experience into?
I think almost everything. I don't think I have had to ditch any skills or anything. But I think the most critical ones is uh, the mindset in hotels. You can't, if something happens as a duty manager of a 600 room hotel, especially if you're the night duty manager,
I
where
know.
where you are the duty manager, you are the general manager, you are authorized to do everything. If something happens, you have nobody to ask. You exhaust all options
Mhm.
before you actually, because in the middle of the night I can't call my FOM or my GM saying that, sir, this has happened, what do I do? I need to exhaust all options, no matter how much money it costs, no matter what it takes to solve that issue. So that mindset that it is up to me to solve this,
Mhm.
that no is not an answer, that mindset is something that I carry with me everywhere. And there's a very funny story again. When I was brand new in this hotel and I was doing marketing, I had to report to the director of sales as a dotted line reporting. And he was a very intense guy. Again, very, very famous for what he was, legend in sales. So and he didn't understand marketing and social media back then. Nobody really did. So one day he asked me that, what is your plan? So I told him that by this time, we need to activate our web page, or this is social media. Need to have a Twitter page, blah, blah, blah. He said, and salespeople are always numbers people, right? So he said,
Yeah.
okay, tell me on which date will we hit 10,000 followers on Facebook? I said, I can tell you a date. These are things, and we
I-
hope by then we'll have. He said, no, numbers are very important. You have to tell me, write down a date for me. I said, sir, I can't forecast that date. And he got very agitated. He opened up his laptop, and he was very dramatic. And he opened up his laptop on a paper in bold. On Word, he typed, "No is not an answer." He typed it. He came out. He stormed out, and on his door, he said, "No is not an answer." And the whole office looking, and I'm like, "Dude, what is this?" But in that moment, I didn't understand. But I think now when I look back to that funny incident, I think he didn't mean to say that. Don't say no, I don't know, but maybe make up something and say, okay, maybe by August we'll have 50, and by September, so have something. Just say it's not possible. So that even now, when somebody tells me we had a very bad intern in center for business, that was the worst, and everybody. So this was a person who joined after Piyush,
Oh, I know.
and
I
she
know who
was
that is.
there was this girl, and she was a disaster, and she would
Really?
just stand there, not proactive enough, would not offer any idea. So I think what is important is that come with some ideas, offer some solutions, do something. Just don't, stand like this, say, oh, I don't know. So that mindset of the I'll handle it, I'll solve it is very important. That's something I always carry with me. And obviously the behavior, the soft behavior that hotel teaches you, how to interact with people, how to
Mm-hmm.
be in a room full of people and still have conversations, do that small talk without yourself feeling awkward or making the other person feel awkward. I think that behavior, that personality is something which I think is my biggest trait. I even now when if somebody asks me that what is your biggest strength or what do you bring to the table, I say I can get things happen. And I think one of my biggest strengths is that I can work with other people to get that solution. And even if something I can, like, jugaad, I can do
Yeah.
jugaad really well. I can work with other departments. I can go and do some sideshow with other people and say, hey, do it for me, do this, and, help me out. So, and that is also a skill. It's you can't be sly, and it can't be one sided. To build those relationships with people and eventually get things done, I think that's one of my biggest strengths, and that is useful in any industry that you go, be it marketing, be it FMCG, be it ads, wherever you go. That go get an attitude to get things done, to solve
Mm-hmm.
it. I think will take you far wherever you might be, whichever company, whichever setup you might be.
Like you rightly mentioned, Shouvik, about like you took all the skills from hospitality to marketing. Like when people ask me, do you feel like that degree was a waste? I'm like, the soft
Not at all.
skills that hospitality teaches you, you don't get taught those skills in any business school. Like,
Exactly.
we go through group discussions, we go through those interviews, we have grooming classes in front office.
Yeah.
Even when you go for F&B, they teach you how to like pick up a glass or how the plate. Like
Everything.
those are all life lessons. Like,
You're already
Exactly.
set up for any kind of
yeah,
situation, because in hotels you have to face any kind of situation.
Yeah.
So when you go
exactly.
to a different kind of company, no matter how the culture is, you can always adapt because the basics are already set with you.
Yeah.
So it's never really hard to kind of blend in. I have some amazing colleagues and seniors from hospitality, and when, like you said, Sakshi, that people often object that hospitality people can't work in other industries. I know people in, I think, every possible industry. I know people in consulting. I know people in banks. I know people in performing arts. I know people in hardcore analytics, data. I know people who have quit hotels and gone on to join defense. I know people
Wow.
who are in the army.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do anything after hotels.
No, that's very, very true. And I feel like even for me, because when I was making that decision of like moving countries, I feel like a big part of why my family was also okay and like was a little more pacified by the situation because they were like, okay, fine, this guy's been in hospitality. He can just handle himself. We don't need to think about it twice.
Yeah. Yeah. What's the worst that can happen, right? I come from a front office background. What's the worst that can happen? That you will not be able to submit a presentation, your boss will scold you, or the deliverables will be delayed by one day. What's the worst that can happen? That probably that in hotels, person can die.
Mm.
There was this one time when one of my staff members had some kind of an attack, and she started foam coming straight out of her mouth, and some kind
God.
of, I think, some paralysis or something happened. And I'm like, dude, do I handle the hotel now, or but I abandoned everything, and you have to pivot. And then
Yeah.
the executive at the reception, who was a young boy at that time, I told him that, listen, and that was night shift. I said, listen, you are the duty manager for the next 1 or 2 hours. I have to take this girl to the hospital because I can't
Yeah.
just send it off with a hotel driver to the hospital. So every day there's a new challenge, and you can never be prepared for what might happen. But in a corporate setup, you can always kind of plan for these contingencies. You can always expect that, oh, this might happen. Or the worst is that if I don't, I can, my boss will scold me tomorrow, but I know I can do it tomorrow in the morning. That half an hour, problem is fine.
Hmm.
Mm.
So yeah, that's a big difference.
Yeah, it's much more high stakes is what I'm understanding from what your
Always,
experiences have been at hotels because it's also
always.
people you're directly involved with people. Like hospitality is not just hospitality, it's more a people business is what I like to say. Like you're directly dealing with people unlike marketing. Yes, it's a people business, but it's more indirect, right?
Yeah. And when people say that in different companies that, oh, you represent the company, nothing is more, as compared to that in is hotels.
Yeah,
You truly do represent the company, no matter who you are, no matter if you're a bellboy or a front office manager.
yeah,
For them, you are, XYZ Hotels. And if
Yeah.
yeah,
something goes wrong, the whole company's name goes for a toss. So it
yeah.
is actually very, very high stakes. It's not just about you, your department. Whenever you do something, whenever you are dealing with a guest, whenever you're solving a problem, whatever it is, at every point, you're always scared that this person is going to write on TripAdvisor that ITC Hotels is bad or Taj Hotels is bad. So you are
Mhm.
always fighting for that situation to not happen, and that is scary. But at the same time, it gives you great perspective.
So, Shavik, before we kind of head towards almost the end of this conversation, I feel like we want to kind of dive a little more into understanding from you as to what's like one piece of advice that you might have for like someone who's moving to the country or just moving towards any country,
Okay.
like switching.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Be it a student or a newcomer in Canada, whoever it is, any
Mm-hmm.
place. I think people go through lots of advices, lots of recommendations in any new place. Do this way. Yeah, listen to everybody. But if I can give you one advice to feel more comfortable more quickly in a new place, is that, like I said before, go out there, put yourself out there. I know it's uncomfortable. Even till date, it is uncomfortable from when I go to a room where I don't know anyone. It's hard, but the real growth happens after you face that uncomfortable atmosphere. So start meeting people, invest and nurture in those relationships with those friends, and do not ask anything in return. Have those two, three people who will stand by you, and when you go to these new places, take them along with you. That'll be a
Mm-hmm.
nice cushion, this nice comfort for you, because you won't be completely all alone. More than anything in life, invest in people. Everything else is secondary. Everything else will come along as long as you have good people in your life, be it in form of friends, partners, colleagues. Invest and nurture those people. Take care of these people, and everything else falls in place magically during the course of time. Eventually. So yeah, take care of the people around you, and take them with you as you grow.
And that's great advice, because I feel like 2 years ago I was in that situation. I did exactly the things that you mentioned. I had those 2, 3 friends that I took with me to events. So it gets easier, and eventually you said everything works out. So that's
It
a
always
great
does.
piece
Yeah.
of advice for everyone out there who's a newcomer international student. And that does bring us to our last question, which is, have you been in desperate times in the past few years, and how did you get out of it?
I would say yes, multiple times. There was this phase pre-COVID, and I think this was one of the reasons which led me to kind of rethink what I was doing back then. Suddenly, I lost interest in what I was doing, and I thought I was not making any impact because it was very mundane, very monotonous, same thing from 9 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day. I lost purpose. I didn't know what I was doing, and I felt very helpless. And what's more difficult and it's more hurtful is that sometimes you can't convey that pain to others. It's very difficult to convey what you're feeling to your parents or your colleagues, because your colleague might be feeling something else. Maybe they're feeling perfectly okay and they don't understand why you're so frustrated. And more difficult is when people judge you for that. That, listen, everything is fine. XYZ in your department is working well. Everybody's okay. Why are you unhappy?
Mm-hmm.
And so that is a very desperate kind of a situation. It was a desperate situation for me because I was desperate because nobody understands what I was feeling, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard.
Yeah.
That was one. Second was very recent when I transitioned to my new job. I was very happy. Again, GBC has given me everything in this place, but of late, as you might know, education sector is going through a tremendous crisis. Dip in enrollments. Enrollments are at an all-time low, which is why there's no revenue. So departments are being merged. GBC has gone through major internal merger, which is why a lot of departments are completely dissolved. So the department partnerships that I was in was completely laid off, dissolved overnight. So my boss obviously was absorbed in another central department, but the remaining all of us were let go, and not because we were not good, but even our dean didn't have any power to kind of challenge the decision because that all happened centrally. And end of the day, we were all names and numbers on a paper.
Mm-hmm.
So that
Mm.
was really hard. Suddenly, from having a purpose, belonging to a certain place, and being loved by colleagues and students, and having being in such a vibrant place,
Yeah.
it was hard. It happened in early June for that. So those 1.5 months were a little. So I did challenge my existence for those first few weeks. I was very depressed. It was a desperate time. I was again reaching out to multiple people, networking like crazy, sending emails. So it was hard, and I'm like, why am I not getting responses? By this point, I know I've established myself. I know everybody. I have good amount of work experience, but despite all that, why am I not getting responses? So those few weeks were a little hard. But
Mhm.
again, like I said, my people really helped me during that time. I leaned on them. And eventually what I thought was, just because I don't have a job during these few weeks doesn't mean my life has changed. So I made a conscious decision of doing everything that I would do in my normal life. I still went out, I still met friends, I still went for drinks. And eventually I came out of that those few difficult weeks, and eventually this clicked. But yeah, I think desperate times are very normal. It happens to everybody. I know some very accomplished people who I look up to who have had multiple layoffs in 1 year, in a single year, and they're still going. And I would just like to tell people, don't let these downtimes or these setbacks define who you are. It's never that. And especially when somebody's starting early, people who start working in their early 20s, they think their work defines them,
Mm,
and the work that they do, the way they are seen in their workplace defines who they are. Never, never. Even if you're a CEO of a company, what you build, what you give to the audience is not who you are. You are more than a job. And I always say it's never work-life balance, because that means work and life are on the same scale. I always say work is within
mm,
that circle. Life
yeah.
Mhm.
is bigger. The work is that one thing. There's this beautiful quote. I think it was big time CFO from a tech company who suddenly, at the peak of his career, quit. And he said, and when somebody asked him, why did you quit? And he said, at the end of the day, it's all about something like trade off between, where you work and what matters in your life. And
Mm,
sometimes you need, in that trade off, you need to choose the life that you have. So,
yeah.
yeah, even if you do land up in desperate times, have balance, lean to the people who you love and respect, and things will get better. The desperate times do not define you. You are bigger than those desperate times.
Absolutely. 100%. I couldn't agree more. And I feel like this has been a pretty enriching conversation on the whole. It's gone
Thank
through
you.
so much.
Thank you.
We've understood like your background, we've understood where you are today, we've understood basically I feel like we've got a good understanding of you as a person and your entire life through this.
I
So
know
thanks
it
a
was
lot for this.
obviously. Thank you. Thank you for having me. And obviously, it was more like a very, friendly chat with you guys, because obviously I know Sakshi, and even with because we have shared background. So it was a fun conversation. I just hope people who listen in may find some quick takeaways. And yeah, all the best to everyone who's watching it. And through this podcast, if somebody wants to reach out and pick my brain on something, happy to chat. Just send me a message and I'll try my best to give you advice or whatever it is. And happy to chat anytime.
Thank you so much, Shouvik.
Great.
I think that means a lot for me at least, and I think whoever wants to reach out to you, that opens doors for them. So we'll drop your LinkedIn link in our description. So whoever wants to reach out to Shouvik can reach out to him on LinkedIn. And with that, thank you so much again, Shouvik. It's been a
Thank
great pleasure
you.
having you on. And
Likewise, likewise. And all the best, you guys, for the podcast and for the subsequent episodes. And let's get Jessica.
Jessica being put in the spot again.
Yeah.
So much pressure.
All right, then. Perfect. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Thank you
Bye.
so
Thanks,
much.
everyone. See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.